What is up, team? Today we're going to be talking about an expression and comparing that to something called an equation. And what's the difference? Why are there two different names for it when they look kind of similar? And what could we do to help organize and talk about them a lot easier? Okay. So for this, I'm going to kind of write them side by side, and I'm going to start by writing the word expression. To put it simply, an expression does not have an equal sign. Does not have an equal sign. An expression is made up of things called terms, which can include constants, variables, or a combination of coefficients and variables. Right? To think about this, variables are kind of those letters that you see, and they can stand for different things depending on the situation. And constants are just regular numbers. Okay. Expressions, you'll typically see the word evaluate or, my favorite, simplify. Expressions. Typically, this means that you're going to be using orders of operations, maybe a little bit of PEMDAS if you remember those steps, in order for you to figure out what an expression actually is. Typically, an expression, and because it doesn't have an equal sign, typically your expressions are not going to equal anything. They're just going to result in the most simplified expression that you can possibly have. Okay, we'll do some examples in a second, but first I want to get through what is an equation. And an equation has an equal sign. So when you see an equal sign, boom, you got an equation. An equation is made up of expressions. So an expression can be in an equation, but an equation cannot be in an expression, right? It just has to do with the equal sign. But an equation is made up of expressions. And when we look at equations, we simplify the expressions to help us solve. The key word here is solve equations. Typically, and I'm going to put this right underneath, typically we are solving for some sort of unknown variable when we talk about solving. In addition, solving can also be rearranging. In order to highlight something that we want. So we could rearrange the equation to highlight something or highlight a specific value. So when we solve an equation, we're actually solving for an unknown variable, or we could be rearranging the equation in order to highlight something. Check out part 2, and we'll do some examples to look at the difference between the two when they actually appear in front of us.